coming through the room. You wouldn't want to miss it.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Good morning, Rabbi Katz.
Good morning, Cantor Greenberg.
How are you?
Good. Good morning to those on YouTube. Good
morning
to our
people in the Zoomiverse.
Yes,
We're
and
glad
good morning
you're
to
here.
those in person. Now we need Eben in the room. He can hear us.
He's greeting. He's doing really what he's supposed to do. He's hosting.
Yes.
He's greeting. He's hosting.
Haknasat Orchim.
Haknasat Orchim. He's welcoming all of his guests. It's quite beautiful, actually. He's doing the exact thing that a bar mitzvah is meant to do, right? To be ambassador of the community.
Absolutely. So we're going to begin on page 74. You could make sure to grab one of these books on the way in. Make sure you've got one of these packets as well. And then if you want to throw candy later, you should grab that and put it in your pocket on your way in as well. We're on page 74. We're going to begin with the words of Matovu.
Matovu ohalecha Yaakov, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. Join us. Matovu ohalecha Yaakov, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. Avani tefilati lecha Adonai et ratzon Elohim biro v'chasedecha aneni be'emet yishecha. It's so good to be under our tent together. Join us. Matovu ohalecha Yaakov, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. Matovu ohalecha Yaakov, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Welcome.
Shabbat shalom.
Hi.
So welcome to all those who just walked in. Make sure on your way in that you've grabbed a prayer book, that you've grabbed one of these packets. And thank you for those I've seen as people have been putting on their masks as they've been walking in. In a moment, we're going to call Eben up, and he's going to place on his shoulders for the very first time a talit, a ritual garment that spells out all the values, all the obligations, all the virtues of what it means to become a full-fledged adult member of our community. And so as he places this on his shoulders, a talis, which actually his dad wore when he was his age, he is going to say the blessing and begin this journey of today becoming bar mitzvah. And so I want to call him up with his dad as his dad places this on his shoulders and he says the blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kichana b'mitzvah tav v'tzivanu l'chit asef b'tzitzit.
Amen. Well done.
Continuing on page 76. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who formed the human being with skill, creating the body's many pathways and openings. It is well known before your throne of glory that if one of them be wrongly opened or closed, it would be impossible to endure and to stand before you. Blessed are you, Adonai, who heals all flesh, working wondrously. Baruch atah Adonai, rofeh kol basar umafli la'asot, page 78.
So we move our awareness from the body the vessel, right, that we know when it's not working right, to now the awareness of the inner life, our neshama. And this text reminds us to come back to the knowing that we are just as we were meant to be, that our souls are tehorahi, they are pure. I'll invite you to marinate on what that might mean for you this morning, especially if you begin to lead in this way. We chant these words together. Elohai neshama shenatata bi. What does it mean to know I am pure? Elohai, Elohai, neshama shenatata bi tehorahi. Elohai neshama shenatata bi. Join us. Elohai, Elohai, neshama shenatata bi. Shenatata bi tehorahi. Ata virata, ata yitzarta, ata nefachta bi. Viata mishamira bekirebi. Once more, Elohai neshama shenatata bi. Elohai, Elohai, neshama shenatata bi tehorahi. Asher biyado nefesh kol chai veruach kol bisar ish.
In a moment, we're going to chant a series of blessings in our own lives, things that we're holding in our hearts as miracles, big and small. And so traditionally, we would thank God for any number of things: the ability to see, the ability to stand firm, the ability to even distinguish day from night. But today, we're going to add our own blessings to the mix. And so I'm going to invite you to just raise your hand, and I'll call on you, and then we'll pray those blessings, those things that you are thankful for. So anybody got something they're thankful for? Yeah. All right. So for parents, Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. For parents. Somebody else. Yeah. For family, Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. For family.
How about for our unique light?
I love it. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. For our unique light. Yeah. For good health. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. For good health. How about one more person?
It's a miracle of everything.
Yes. For gathering together. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. For gathering together. And on page 86, we chant Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Elu Devarim, page 88.
אלו דברים שלהם שיעור, שאדם אוכל פירותיהם בעולם הזה, והקרן קיימת לו לעולם הבא, ואלו הן.
Kibud Abaim Ugmilut Chasadim Vehashkamat Beit Hamidrash Shacharit Ve'arvit Ve'haknasat Orchim Uvikur Cholim Ve'haknasat Kala Uvayat Hamet Ve'iyun Tefila Ve'havat Shalom Bein Adam Lachavero Ve'tamud Torah Kineged Kulam. We chant responsively, page 94.
ברוך שאמר, והיה העולם.
Baruch Hu.
ברוך עושה בראשית.
Baruch Omer Ve'oseh.
ברוך גוזר ומקיים.
Baruch Merachem Al Haaretz.
ברוך מרחם על הבריות.
Baruch Meshalem Sachar Tov Le'ereav. Baruch Podeh Umatzil. Baruch Shemo. We're on page 96, Mizmor Shir Liyom HaShabbat. Liyom HaShabbat, Tov Lehodot L'Shimcha Elyon, U'lezamer L'Shimcha Elyon. Agi baboker chasdecha ve'emunatecha balelot leyad aleina alei higayon bechinor. Clap your hands with us. Mizmor shir liyom HaShabbat tov lehodot l'Adonai l'zamer l'shimcha elyon l'zamer l'shimcha elyon l'zamer. Page 97, Ashrei Yoshrei Veitecha. Happy are those who dwell in your house. They, God, will forever praise you.
So just a moment of call and response as we draw more deeply into this idea of our light, of our joy, of our knowing that when we feel those things, the text says, that must mean we're in God's house. No address. It is about our connection. So close your eyes for a moment. Close your eyes for a moment, just a moment. And be my echo. Happy are those who dwell. Ashrei.
Ashrei.
Yoshvei.
Yoshvei.
Let's sing this word veitecha together. Veitecha. Let's try that once.
Veitecha.
Od Hallelujah, Od Hallelujah, Selah, Selah. We try it again. Ashrei, Yoshvei, Veitecha. Together. Veitecha. Od Hallelujah, Od Hallelujah, Selah.
Selah.
And now we say Va'anachnu
Va'anachnu
Nivarech Ya
Nivarech Ya
Me'ata v'yad olam, Me'ata v'yad olam. And here's the key. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Page 100.
Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. It's our word for naming what is praiseworthy. Maybe because God gave it to us, or maybe that's not how you communicate your gratitude. But nevertheless, this is the word for the day. Hallelujah. Just tap in for a moment to your connection to praise, your gratitude for what is. Hallelujah,
Hallelujah.
hallelujah, 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 El Bikocho, hallelujah, hallelujah, Birkia Uzo. All right, now we know what we're doing. Hallelujah, 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 karav tudlo.
Let's hear you.
Hallelujah,
Hallelujah.
hallelujah, 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 beteka shofar. Hallelujah, hallelujah, benevel ubechinor.
Together.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah, 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 betov umachol. Hallelujah, hallelujah, beminim veugav. Hallelujah,
Hallelujah.
hallelujah, 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 betzil tzilei shama. Hallelujah, hallelujah, betzil tzilei truah. Kol haneshama, kol haneshama tehalelia, kol haneshama tehalelia. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
We turn to page 106 and we rise together for the Chatzi Kaddish.
נתגדל ויתקדש שמך רבה.
אמן.
ילמד וירחילותי והמחמכותי וחייכון ובמכון ובחיי כל בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו
אמן.
יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר אדוני ותעשה ותדר ותעלה ויתהלל שמד קודשה בריחו לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן ביולמה ואמרו
Amen. Page 108.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך
Baruch Adonai Amborach Leolam Vaed.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
We're seated together, page 110, Yotzer Or.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם יוצר אור ובורא חושך עושה שלום ובורא את הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם יוצר אור ובורא חושך עושה שלום עושה שלום עושה שלום ובורא את הכל. אור חדש על צעיר ציון ונדחה כולנו מרעהו. ברוך אתה אדוני יוצר המאורות.
Page 112.
אהבתנו אדוני אלוהינו חמלה גדולה ותרחמת עלינו בעבור אבותינו ואימותינו שבטחו בך שבטחו בך שבטחו בך ותלמדם חוקי חיים כן תיכוננו ותלמדנו המרחם עלינו המרחם עלינו ותן בליבנו להבין ולהשכיל לשמוע ללמוד וללמד לשמור ולעשות ולקיים את כל דברי תלמוד תורתך באהבה והאר עינינו בתורתך ודבק ליבנו במצוותיך ויחד לבבינו באהבה וליראה את שמך ולא נבוש ולא ניקח ולא נקלם ולא ניקח לשם קודשך הגדול והנורא בטחנו, נגילה ונשמחה, נגילה ונשמחה ישועתך. והביאנו לשלום מארבע כנפות הארץ, ותוליכנו קוממיות לארצנו, כי אל פועל ישועות אתה, ובנו בחרת וקרבתנו לשמך הגדול. סלע באמת להודות לך ולייחד לך באהבה. ברוך אתה אדוני הבוחר בעמו ישראל באהבה.
Page 114.
שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד.
We're on page 116, and I want to call Eben up as he's going to lead us in the Via Hafta.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברתם בם בשבתך בביתך ובלבבך בדרך ובשוכבך ובגומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות בביתך ובשעריך. ויאמר אדוני אל משה לאמור, דבר אל בני ישראל ואמרת עליהם, ועשו להם ציצית על כנפי בגדיהם לדורותם, ונתנו על ציצית הכנף פתיות תכלת, וחיה לכם לציצית הוריתם אותו, וזכרתם את כל מצוות אדוני ועשיתם אותם, ולא תעתרו אחרי לבבכם ואחרי עיניכם אשר אתם זונים אחריהם, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתיכם מארץ מצרים לראות להם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. יישר כוח, אבן.
We move forward now in our prayer book. We're on page 122 as we join together in this joyous prayer for freedom, Micha Mocha.
And a very special melody, because today is, of course, if we were in a room of preschoolers, we would know for sure, Hanukkah. Today is Hanukkah, and it is still Hanukkah. And so we always use a very special melody per our festivals that reminds us and is the soundtrack of that festival in a way. And the melody is this. You'll know it. Ya la 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 Maosor, right? You know the melody. La 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 ya la 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 ya la la. Now we chant Micha Mocha Bailim Adonai. Micha Mocha Bailim Adonai. Micha Mocha Darba Kodesh Nora Teilot O Sefele Shira Chadasha Shibichu Geulim לשמך על שפת הים, יחד כולם הודו וימליכו ויאמרו אדוני אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. Last time for this year.
We're on the bottom of page 122, and we're going to rise together as we join together in this prayer. And Eben, I'm going to call you back up because as soon as we finish it, you'll lead us in the Avot and the Gevurot.
צור ישראל, קומה בעזרת ישראל, ופידכנו ממך יהודה וישראל, גואלנו אדוני צבאות שמו, קדוש ישראל ברוך את אדוני גאל ישראל.
Adonai, sefotai tifta ufi yagi tachilatecha.
אדוני שפתי תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתך. ברוך אתה אדוני
Eloheinu, ve'Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagidol, Hagibor, v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, v'Koneh HaKol, v'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, Umugiv Lav Livneinehem, Moshe'o B'Ahava, Melech Ozer Umoshia Umagen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Abraham, V'Zrat Hara, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh al Kol al Tavrav, Le'oshia, Mashiva Ruach, Umarid Agashem, Mechokel Hayim B'Chesed, Mechayeh HaKol B'Rachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim V'Rofeh Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Bal Gevurot, Umidom Elah, Melememi, Umechayem, Umatmia Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah l'chayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mekayeh hakol.
נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה, ואמר, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוך כל הארץ כבודו, אדיר אדירנו, אדוני אדוננו, מאדיר שמך בכל הארץ, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו, אחד הוא אלוהינו, אבינו מלכנו, מושיענו, והוא ישמיענו ברחמיו לעיני כל חי. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהייך ציון, לדור ודור, הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך ולנצח נצחים, קדושתך נקדיש, ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
We continue in silence through page 142, and when you're finished, you can be seated. It's customary after we pray silently to ask for peace. And so we're on page 141 as I call Lauren Silver up to read a special prayer for peace.
Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the people of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace and its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of our world. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Blessed are you, Adonai, who blesses your people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hambarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom.
Amen. Thank you.
So this being the Shabbat of Hanukkah, it's customary to pray a little bit from a section of our service which is called Hallel. It's a section that speaks about, it's really a section of Psalms that speaks to the kind of joy of any moment. And so on the same way that you would do Hallel on Passover, on Shavuot, on Sukkot, you do it on Hanukkah as well. And so I'm going to invite us to turn to Hallel. First, the blessing, which you can find on page 268. And then we'll give a nod to the full Hallel, even though we're not doing every prayer, which you can find on the following pages.
Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu likra et Hallel. Amen.
Amen. Page 270.
Beit Yisrael mitzrayim.
And we can rise, actually.
Beit Yaakov me'am lo'ez. Beit Yisrael mitzrayim. Beit Yaakov me'am lo'ez. Hayta Yehuda likodsho. Yisrael mamshelota. Hayam rav vayanos. Hayarden yisov leachor. He'arim rakedu chelim. Gevaot kivnetzon.
I'm going to invite us forward now to page 275, Psalm 118. Pitchu li sharei tzedek. Open for me the gates of righteousness, the gates for me that can lead me to a life of deeper meaning and connection.
Pitchu li sharei tzedek avovam odeya. Join us. Pitchu li sharei tzedek avovam odeya. Tzadikim yavovo. Yithalelu Adonai Eloheinu kol maasecha.
277.
ברוך אתה אדוני מלך מהולל בת ישפחו.
Praise you, Adonai, sovereign, praised in song. We're going to remain standing as we turn to Seder Kriyat Torah, to the reading of our Torah, page 244. And to open up our ark, I want to call up Jesse Silver and Elliot Silver. And of course, Eben, you'll come up to be joined by your parents, Stu and Jennifer, and your grandfather, Barry, as they pass you the Torah Lador Vador from generation to generation. Again, page 244.
Ein kamocha va'elohim Adonai, ve'ein kemasecha, malchutecha malchut, kol olamim, umemshaltecha bechol dor v'ador. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai imloch, Leolam vaed, Adonai oz le'amo yiten, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. Avarachamim etiv avirtzoncha et Zion, tivnei chomot Yerushalayim, tivnei chomot Yerushalayim, ki vecha levad bataknu, melech eram v'nisa, Adon olamim. Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, ki mitzion tetzei Torah, udevar Adonai merushalayim. Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah, Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah, le'amo Yisrael, bigdushato. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo, Gadlul Adonai iti, Uneramema Shemo Yagdav. Yai-dai, dai-dai, dai-dai, dai, yai-dai, dai-dai, dai-dai, dai, yai-dai, dai-dai, dai-dai, dai-dai. Yai-dai, dai-dai, dai-dai, dai, yai-dai, dai-dai, dai-dai, dai, yai-dai, dai-dai, dai-dai, dai-dai.
So one of the customs at our congregation, and you can take a seat, and really throughout the Jewish world, is to not let the Torah stand on its own, but rather to give context to the Torah, to make the Torah relevant for the struggles that we have today. And so each week we have a different person who is our teacher, and when we have a bar or bat mitzvah, we're blessed to have that student as our teacher this morning. And so it's my pleasure to call Eben back up to the bima to be our teacher this morning.
Shabbat Shalom. To understand my Torah portion, we have to go back into last week's Torah portion, where Joseph was sold into slavery by his brothers and ended up in Egypt. They sold him into slavery because they were jealous that their father Jacob loved him more. In this week's portion, we see the rise of Joseph. When Joseph is in prison, he learns he can interpret dreams. Joseph uses that ability to interpret the Pharaoh's dreams, to predict there will be 7 years of plenty, which will be wiped out by 7 years of famine. Pharaoh was impressed by Joseph's wisdom and decided to release him from prison and put him in charge of preparing for the 7 years of famine. So Joseph went from prisoner to second in command in Egypt. As Joseph predicted, the good years ended and the famine started. Since Joseph had stocked up on food during the good years and he was in control of that food, he was very powerful. All of Egypt's neighbors had to go to Joseph to buy food during the years of famine. Jacob, Joseph's father, who was living in Canaan, realized there was food in Egypt and sent his 10 sons to Egypt to buy food, but he purposely did not send Benjamin, his youngest son. When Joseph saw his brothers, he recognized them but pretended he did not know them. However, the brothers did not recognize Joseph. Joseph ended up accusing them of being spies and told them there wouldn't be any more food unless they brought Benjamin to Egypt. Back in Canaan, Jacob and the brothers ran out of food again. They realized they can't go back to Egypt to get more food without Benjamin. Jacob is reluctant to let Benjamin go, but eventually allows the brothers to take him. When the brothers arrive in Egypt, they go to Joseph's house, but they are scared and don't trust him. The brothers still don't recognize Joseph. Privately, Joseph got emotional upon seeing Benjamin, who is Joseph's only full brother. When Joseph sent the brothers back to Canaan with food, he purposely framed them by putting a wine cup in Benjamin's food bag, and then had his guards stop the brothers to accuse them of stealing. As a punishment, Joseph keeps Benjamin as a slave. In next week's Torah portion, Joseph will reveal himself to his brothers, and there will be a reunion. After reading my Torah portion, I was left with a question. Why did Joseph pretend he did not know his brothers? Why not just reveal himself to them from the start? Why do you have to trick them? There are many possible answers to this question. Maybe he had a plan the entire time of getting Benjamin back, since he's his only true brother, so he lied to bring Benjamin there. Or maybe he didn't reveal himself as he was filled with hatred and hurt after his family put him in prison and wanted to take revenge. For example, he could use his power and the fact that his brothers didn't recognize him to take Benjamin away from his family. He knew taking Benjamin would hurt his father the most. Or maybe he lied out of kindness. Perhaps he felt he could take better care of Benjamin than his family could, even if Benjamin was locked up. Joseph could feed him and look after him to make sure he was okay. Even when Joseph accused his brothers of theft and took Benjamin as a slave, he still sent his brothers home with food and returned to them the money they tried to use to buy the food. But I have an answer of my own. I think that Joseph lied to protect himself and didn't reveal himself right away in order to test his family. Joseph's family thought he was dead, and Joseph still had bad feelings towards his family. So by not revealing himself, he could get a better idea if his family had changed or felt bad about what they had done to him. Or if they were still bad people and would accuse him, and would use him since he had power and access to food and supplies. If they knew who he was, they might treat him differently. Joseph's actions show us that sometimes it's okay to lie, and that not all lies are bad. There are times where, like Joseph, I might lie to protect myself and others. For example, if a friend trusts me with a secret about his family, and someone asks me a question about my friend's family, I might lie about having any knowledge of my friend's family situation, in order to keep my friend's secret and not betray his trust. Or, if I was invited to a party and one of my friends was not invited, I might lie to that friend about attending the party, since I wouldn't want my friend to feel bad about not being invited. Or, if I wasn't invited to a party and someone asked me why I wasn't there, I might lie and say I had missed the party because I had another obligation, instead of admitting I wasn't there. These three examples bring to mind certain principles in deciding when to lie. In some cases, we might lie to protect someone else's feelings. You might compliment them when they don't deserve it. Or you might lie to protect your own feelings. You might say you are busy when you aren't, so you don't get disappointed when people don't include you in things. Finally, you might lie to protect a secret. Keeping trust is sometimes more important than the truth. These principles have been around for 2,000 years in Jewish law. For example, Judaism debates whether if a bride doesn't look good on her wedding day, should people lie and say she looks great anyway, so as not to hurt her feelings on such a special occasion? One rabbi named Shammai says to always tell the truth. Another named Hillel says to lie to protect the bride's feelings. In the end, Hillel wins the debate. I agree with Hillel, but I think it depends on the day. If it's just an average day, one is more likely to be honest, but on a bride's wedding day, a really huge day in her life, one is more likely to make her feel good. Or if it's your bar mitzvah and you're reading the Torah and you're messing things up, people will still likely tell you did a great job since it's such a special day, just to make you feel good. The main point is there may be certain occasions when it is acceptable to lie, and that not all lies are bad. Next time you face a dilemma like whether to protect yourself or protect the feelings of others, ask yourself, is truth always the best option? It usually is, but viewed in this light, it makes sense to me why Joseph hid his identity from his brothers. From my perspective, Joseph lied similar to how I've told lies to protect myself. So next time you're in this situation, maybe ask what would Joseph do, and you'll gain a new perspective.
Yasher koach. But don't go too far, because actually you're going to read Torah now. So, Eben, we're going to call you back up to be joined by your grandparents. Ya'amdu Baruch Chaim ben Yitzchak v'David la'aliyah la'Torah. We're going to call you up to be joined by Barry Silver, Ina Silver, Dave Schwartz, and Carol Schwartz. And Josh Silver will be reading the English translation.
Baruch hu et Adonai havarach.
Baruch Adonai Hamrach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai havarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'noton lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen. Amen. V'Yosef, hu ashalit al haaretz, hu hamashbir l'cham haaretz, v'yavo achei Yosef, v'yistachavu lo apayim arza, v'yar Yosef et echav, v'yakirem, v'yinaker alehem, v'yidaber itam kashon, v'yomer alehem me'ayim batem, v'yomeru me'eretz kanan lishbar ochel, v'yaker Yosef et echav v'hem lo hikiru, v'yizkor Yosef et hachlamot asher chalam lahem, v'yomer alehem meraglim atem, v'yomeru me'eretz kanan lishbar ochel, v'yaker Yosef et achav v'hem lo hikiru, v'yizkor Yosef et hachlamot asher chalam lahem, v'yomer alehem meraglim atem, v'yomeru.
Oh, you did, but it's okay. But you did great.
Yes. All right. You just kept going.
Yeah.
Yep. All right.
This one. Now Joseph was the vizier of the land. It was he who dispensed rations to all the people of the land, and Joseph's brothers came and bowed low to him with their faces to the ground. When Joseph saw his brothers, he recognized them, but he acted like a stranger towards them and spoke harshly to them. He asked them, "Where do you come from?" And they said, "From the land of Canaan, to procure food." For though Joseph recognized his brothers, they did not recognize him. Recalling the dreams that he had dreamed about them, Joseph said to them, "You are spies. You have come to see the land in its nakedness."
So if you want to gather around for the aliyah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
So you guys can take a seat. Oh, you're going to stay up here. For our second aliyah, Eben, I'm going to call up your parents, Jennifer Silver and Stuart Schwartz. Ya'amdu, Rachalea bat Baruch, Svivem David la'aliyah la'Torah.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorach. Baruch Adonai hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen. V'yomeru elai lo Adoni avadecha ba'u lishbar ochel kulanu b'nei sechad nachnu kenim unachnu lo hayu avadecha meraglim vayomer alehem lo kirvat ha'oretz batem lo vayomeru Shneim asar avadecha achim unanu b'nei sehad be'eretz Canaan v'hinei agaton et avinu hayom v'chad einenu.
But they said to him, "No, my lord, truly your servants have come to procure food. We are all of us sons of the same man. We are honest men. Your servants have never been spies." And he said to them, "No, you have come to see the land and its nakedness." And they replied, "We, your servants, were 12 brothers, son of a certain man in the land of Canaan. The youngest, however, is now with our father, and one is no more."
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
And so, Evan, I'm going to call you formally up as bar mitzvah now. Ya'amod, Ya'amod, Ya'amod. Noach ben Rachalea v'tzvi l'aliyah Torah. Chazak ve'amatz. And we'll have your parents come back up. They can surround you with their love. Yep.
Baruch Adonai hamvorach. Baruch Adonai hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah. Vayomer alehem Yosef hu asher dibarti alechem lemor meragli matem bizahu tibachenu chei faro im teteu miteki im bevo erachichem akaton hena ziuchu mikem echad v'gag erachichem vatem ha'azru v'bachanu divrehem ha'emet echem ve'im lo chei faro ki meraglim atem vaye'esotam al mishmor shloshet yamim.
But Joseph said to them, "It is just as I have told you, you are spies. By this you shall be put to the test. Unless your youngest brother comes here by Pharaoh, you shall not depart from this place. Let one of you go and bring your brother, while the rest of you remain confined, that your words may be put to the test, whether there is truth in you. Else by Pharaoh you are nothing but spies." And he confined them in the guardhouse for 3 days.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam natan b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
And so we join together in a special prayer for joyous first, the Shehechianu, thanking God for being able to reach this day. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shehechianu v'kiyemanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Siman tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, siman tov, siman tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, siman tov, siman tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, siman tov. Yehelanu, 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 ulecho Yisrael. Yehelanu, ulecho Yisrael. Yehelanu, yehelanu, ulecho Yisrael. Yehelanu, yehelanu, ulecho Yisrael. So Josh, you can take a seat, but the three of you should stay up here because Eben, I know your parents have some words that they're going to share with you now. Let's just kick these off so we don't ground it into the rug.
Here we go. Eben, you made it. We made it. What an amazing job you did today. Sorry. We're so very proud of you. Getting to this day was not easy. It took a lot of determination and dedication and a little bit of cramming. We hope that this bar mitzvah experience serves as a life lesson for you as you embark on your next steps as a young man. Sorry. When life throws you a curveball, we know you'll rise to the challenge just like you did here. This pandemic has been the ultimate curveball. No one expected you to have to spend nearly a year preparing virtually for your bar mitzvah, and yet that was your reality. Notwithstanding some very challenging circumstances, you pushed through. Your hard work has definitely paid off. You've consistently shown when you put your mind to something, you succeed in a big way, whether it's school, a personal interest, or becoming a bar mitzvah today.
That was great. Apart from being conscientious and diligent, you are also a good-spirited, caring, funny, and smart kid. We know these traits will continue to serve you well as you make the transition to adulthood. As today is a day filled with blessing, our blessing for you is to have a life filled with love, laughter, happiness, and good health. And since all roads in Eben's life lead back to football, we'd be remiss not to work in football in some way. And so we quote 1976 New York Jets head coach Lou Holtz. Ability is what you are capable of doing. Motivation determines what you do. Attitude determines how well you do it. Or as Dan Marino of Eben's beloved Miami Dolphins said, swing hard in case you hit it. Eben, we will always be your biggest fans. We love you so much. Mazel tov.
So we're going to take this opportunity to think of those who are ill and who are in need of healing, who are in need of a refuah shlema, complete healing of body, mind, soul, and spirit. We're on page 253, and I'll invite you to share names of people who are in need of healing as my eyes go around the room. Mi shebeira avotenu mikor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu mikor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. I'm going to call up Michael Silver to read a special prayer for the state of Israel.
O Heavenly One, protector and redeemer of Israel, bless the state of Israel, which marks the dawning of hope for all who seek peace. Shield it beneath the wings of your love. Spread it over the canopy of your peace. Send your light and truth to all who lead and advise, guiding them with your good counsel. Establish peace in the land and fullness of joy for all who dwell there. Amen.
And so we're going to rise together as we prepare to lift and dress our Torah.
וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לפני בני ישראל על פי אדוני ביד משה. ישמחו השמיים, השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ותגל הארץ. יירם הים, יירם הים, יירם הים, ומלואו. יירם הים, יירם הים, יירם הים, ומלואו.
Please be seated. So we don't just read a scriptural reading from the Torah itself, but we also have a section from the books of the prophets that we read each and every Shabbat as well. And so in your book on page number 5, you're going to find the Haftarah text right here. It's the book of Zechariah, chapter 4, verses 1 through 7. And Eben, I'm going to call you back up to first read the blessing before, and then to read the Haftarah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar bin ve'im tovim v'ratza v'divrehem hanemarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher v'torah uv'Moshe avdo uV'Yisrael amo uV'nvi'ei ha'emet v'atzedek. Vayasov hamalach hadover bi vayreini ke'is asher yor mishnato vayomer elai mata ro'eh v'amar ra'iti v'nei merat zahav kulam v'gula arosham v'shiva nerotecha aleha shiva v'shiva mutar kod l'nerot asher aroshav Ushnayim zeitim alecha echad mimin hagula v'echad al smola va'an v'amar el hamala hadaver bi lemor ma'ele adoni va'an hamalach hadaver bi vayomer elai halot yadata mahem ha'ele va'omar lo adoni Vayomer Eli Lemor, Zed of Adonai, El Zerubbabel Lemor, Lo Bechayel, Lo Vekoa, Ki Im Baruchi, Amar, Adonai Seva'o, Miata, Har Hagadol, Lifnei Zerubbabel, Lemishor, Votzi, Et Ha'even Harosha, Teshuot, Chen La.
We join together in the Haftarah blessings. Evan, you don't have to leave. You can hang out with me. Evan, stay here. I need support. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, tzur kol haolamim, tzadik bechol hadorot. Ha'el ha'ne'eman, ha'omer ve'oseh, ha'medaber u'mekayem, shekol devarav emet v'tzedek. Al ha'torah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al ha'nevi'im ve'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu likdusha ve'limnucha lechavod ultifaret al hakol Adonai Eloheinu anachnu modim lach umevarchim otach yitbarak shimcha befi kochai tamid leolam va'ed baruch ata Adonai mekadesh hashabbat.
Amen. Yisher koach.
We're going to rise together as we prepare to return our Torah to the ark.
Itchaimehi lama chazikim ba ve'tomcha meushar dirachaya dorchinoam v'chol nivateya shalom hashivenu Adonai elecha v'rashuva chadesh yameinu kekedem. You may be seated.
Please be seated. Evan, you can breathe. You did an amazing job. And not only was your chanting wonderful, and not only did you teach us an amazing lesson, but you made us each think during that lesson. Because what you brought in was this really kind of challenging conundrum that every single one of us has, which is how truthful should we actually be? Now, there are definitely people throughout time that have said that you should always tell the truth. So Immanuel Kant is like the most famous of all the philosophers. He has this thing called the Categorical Imperative, where he basically says, okay, I've got an ethical question. I want to figure out what to do. And so I need to ask, if every single person behaved this way in the world, what would the world look like? And so he says, if everybody tells the truth, or if everybody lies, right, and it's a universal law that you must lie, would the world fall apart? Would there even be anything such as truth? And because he realizes that if you make falsehood a universal, the world would implode, that you must always tell the truth. Because you can make truth a universal and the world wouldn't implode. And so he basically says it's never okay to lie. If somebody shows up, for example, at your door and says, you got to hide me, there's a person with a knife running after me, and that person 5 minutes later shows up at the door, according to Immanuel Kant, you tell the truth and you say, yeah, the guy's hiding in my attic. But Judaism isn't that. Judaism understands that there are times to lie and times to tell the truth, as you spoke about. And although Hillel is the most famous of those examples, right? Saying that if you have to compliment a bride on her wedding day, if that, by the way, is part of Jewish law, you compliment her even if the compliment isn't true. And I've been thinking a little bit about that and about the fact that lying is sometimes necessary, because all too often, the times when we avoid lying, as you spoke about, is when truth and compassion, or truth and kindness, are in competing values with one another. And I think that actually there is another value that is a really important value that we often need to hold up as we're trying to make those decisions. Because you're right, by the way, there are definitely times where you're supposed to lie. But there's a few key questions that you have to ask when you're deciding whether or not you want to lie. And the two questions that I always ask myself is, am I lying for me or am I lying for the other person? And the other question is the lie going to lead to something actionable or not? So I want to unpack both of those questions, because I think that's the essence of deciding when to lie and when not to lie. So the first of those questions, right? Am I doing it for me or am I doing it for others? There are plenty of times when you're going to lie to protect yourself. There are plenty of times, and by the way, you might need to, right? If someone runs up to you with that knife, asks you your name, they know you're after you, you probably can give them another name, right? You're allowed to do a lot to protect your own life. But there are definitely times where you might lie because you want to look good in the eyes of somebody else, right? You want to be elevated. And by lying, you end up having kind of a larger social standing, a better outlook on the eyes of people. That's not the same kind of lie as lying for the sake of someone else's heart. Understanding that the kind thing to do for them, rather than the expedient thing to do for you, is to tell the lie. And so when you do lie in that way, when you do tell a lie for another person, that lie is actually a little bit better ethically than the lie you tell for yourself. The other thing is the question about, is this actionable? So let's say that somebody asks you, for example, how do I look? That is a very different question than how did I look? So if someone says to you, you're getting ready, and they say, how do I look? Probably you want to say, you look wonderful. Let's say you've got a spouse. That's an amazing dress on you. But actually, that's not the kind thing to do if you think about it. You think it's the kind thing to do because you don't want to hurt your spouse's feelings. But the truth is, before you ever leave the house, it is actionable to change your clothing. And so if you say, you know what, actually, like, that doesn't fit you well, or actually, that color doesn't look right, or actually, I think that you're not going to like the way the pictures come out when you wear that. By saying those things with kindness, with love, with warmth, it gives the person a chance to do something actionable, to actually change. After the fact, if someone said, how did I look? The answer can easily be, you looked lovely, even if it wasn't. Because they don't have a way to change, except if they can learn from that mistake. It might sting once for you to say, yeah, you went out and probably that thing you were wearing wasn't great. But if they can know that, and they can maybe donate that outfit or put that outfit aside or choose a different way to wear that outfit next time, that suddenly becomes actionable, and you probably should choose the truth over the kindness. I've actually learned as a rabbi the hard way over the past couple years, with some key strategic mistakes that I've made, that often truth wins. And I've become better at giving feedback to people who work for me, to congregants who might be stepping out of line. Because rather than understanding that the kind thing to do is to kind of grin and bear it, I actually understand the Jewish value of rebuke. We've had people who've worked for this congregation for decades that never, for example, got a review, which is one of the greatest sins that an employer can make, is not giving a review to the people that work for you. Because although the truth sometimes may sting, because every single one of us has things that we need to work on, the best way to be an employer, the best way to be a friend, the best way to be a leader is actually to have the hard conversations, to have them with their growth in mind, to have them with action in mind, to have them for their sake rather than yours, but to have them, to not sin through silence, but rather to find virtue through the discomfort of truth. It's something that I've never really been good at, and it's something over really the past year or so that I've been working on as a rabbi. And I imagine every single one of us struggles with that too. It is easier to be kind than to be truthful. But almost always, if you asked somebody, in hindsight, which would you rather your friend, your family, your mentor, your boss have been? I bet almost universally every single one of you would have said the truth. Because the truth may sting and you may grow from it, but lies will never give you that opportunity. When you lie, even out of kindness, you do what our tradition says is putting a stumbling block before the blind. One of the key phrases in Leviticus chapter 19, which is called the Holiness Code, is the idea that everybody needs all the information in front of them. Because without that, they will fall over that stumbling block. The key is to learn to give a rebuke, to turn them in the right direction, to reprove them, to guide them with the kind of open heart that they need to hear your message. And when you do, you're going to find that although discomfort hurts for a little while, growth far outweighs that. Eben, I want to invite you up to the bima. Because when I was thinking about you, and kind of, I address every B'nai Mitzvah as part of their bar mitzvah process, I was thinking about the fact that if I had to pick one word about you to describe you, it would be earnest. Do you know what earnest means? So when somebody is earnest, the opposite of earnest is cynical, right? It's like the opposite of earnest is somebody who goes around with the world thinking oh, that person, they probably have an agenda, right? Or who will learn something like read Torah or deliver a speech, but will do it they just want me to do it. I guess I'll do it, right? Somebody who's earnest puts their whole heart into everything that they do. And when they greet people, they greet them with this fullness of love, right? When they work on something, they work on it really hard. When they love deeply. When they care deeply. Earnestness means that you truly believe in the things that you're doing. So, for example, if you say to somebody, you know what? The world is becoming a harder place to live. We need to do good in the world. There's no agenda there. It means that you really, truly believe it. When you say you love your family, it means you really, truly believe it. Earnestness means that you care so much about every aspect of the people around you. And you don't have that veneer, that kind of shade of the cynicism, the anger, all of that. You just are purely you. And that kind of earnestness is actually the thing that will allow you to tell the truth in the future, right? People don't want people to tell them the truth and think that there's an agenda behind it. If you have to have a hard conversation with somebody, and by the way, you have all the makings of someone who will step into a leadership position someday, right? You're a hard worker, you're smart, you're thoughtful, you're friendly, you're good with people, which means that at some point you're going to have challenging conversations because every leader must. It might be with students of yours, if you're a teacher, it might be with employees of yours, if you're a boss, but you have to learn to do it with kindness. And because you just naturally are kind, and because you just naturally want to see people get better, people will read that out of you. If someone's checking a box, let's say if you're an employer, on on a yearly review and just saying, all right, I'm getting through this, they will read it like you don't care. And they will not take the feedback that you give them well. But if they see that your whole heart is in this, just like you do to everything, they're going to understand that you really want them to improve. And in doing so, they're going to take your feedback. It's going to penetrate. It's going to make its way in. And they're going to hope to grow because they know that you're in their corner. You have that innate sense about you. And in being as earnest as you are going to move people's hearts so much around you as you balance that tension between kindness and truth. So we want to offer you a blessing, the oldest blessing that we have to give in our tradition, the priestly benediction. And I want to invite us all to help to bless you, Eben. So if you'll raise your hands up like this, and if you're joining us on Zoom, feel free to do that as well, as we offer you this blessing. May God bless you and may God protect you. May God cause God's face to shine upon you and give you grace. May God smile upon you and grant you a life of wholeness and peace.
Can you hear us on may it be God's will, and let us all say Amen.
Shkoach. So afterwards, I'm going to bring you a series of gifts on behalf of the congregation, and you can grab that and see it as a little Hanukkah or something like that, but you can take a seat now as we're going to join together in the Aleinu, page 282.
We rise. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. מה אנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני אל מלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו echad.
We remain standing, page 294, as we think of those that we've loved and lost. As my eyes go around the room, I'll invite you to say names of people for whom you're thinking. Together. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, ביום דברך ירצה וימליך מלכותה, וחייכון וביום נכון ובחיי כל בית ישראל, בגאולה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם עולמי עלמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל לשמי קדושה ברכו. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, תאמירם ביומה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלום רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום, עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ושבי תבל ואמרו אמן.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. Join us. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. One last time. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ויאמרו
Amen. So we're going to join together in Kiddush and Motzi as a way to cap our service. So we're going to call Barry Silver back up to the bima to lead us in Kiddush and Motzi. And then afterwards, feel free to grab a slice and to take a little bit of wine. We apologize, by the way, we thought we had grape juice. It's only wine today. So just a fair warning.
Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei puri hagofen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Shabbat shalom. So come grab a little bit.
I guess I'll take my wine with me. Huh?